Say Al Sharpton, and most people probably think loudmouth activist and provocateur. Well, that certainly was his image in the 80s and 90s. Well, the Reverend Al has gone through something of a metamorphosis. Today, he's downright tame. So much that he's made his way into the establishment. It's been quite a trajectory, from street protest agitator to candidate for president in 2004 to now a trusted White House advisor who's become the president's go-to black leader, campaigning around the country for President Obama and his agenda. Today, Reverend Sharpton looks and sounds like a totally different person.
The story will continue in a moment.
We will stand up for our people.
Reverend Al, 20 years ago in New York.
No skinning and grinning. Pay for your deeds.
Hot-headed in his jogging suits, larger than life in every way, spreading hate and dividing the city.
No justice.
But take a look at Reverend Al today after a meeting with the president. 83 pounds slimmer, stately in his tailored suits, commanding a national stage.
I think the meeting was very candid.
Not only does he travel to see the president travels to see him.
Barack Obama.
In April, Mr. Obama was a keynote speaker at Sharpton's civil rights organization, the National Action Network's fundraiser in New York.
I told Reverend Al backstage, he's getting skinnier than me.
This presidential endorsement, this validation, is an acknowledgement of Al Sharpton's influence with the president's African-American base.
I am living testament that change is possible.
I think that America and Al Sharpton has transformed. I think it's a different country, and I think that therefore I've become a different person in that context.
And we're a different country because we elected a black president?
I think we're a different country over a period of time. We started doing a lot of things that black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. I think America grew, and I grew.
Sharpton told us that having a black president is a challenge. If he finds fault with Mr. Obama, he's aiding those who want to destroy him. So he's decided not to criticize the president about anything, even black unemployment that's twice the national rate. Have you told other blacks not to criticize him publicly?
What I've told them is to be genuine about it. There are some blacks that said, he needs to go with a black agenda. He needs to do this. He said when he was running, he wasn't going to do that. Duh, surprise?
But just because he didn't campaign on improving unemployment in black areas, why aren't you out there saying we need more done?
What I don't want to see is because he is black that we act like he's not the real president. He ought to be leading the black cause or the labor cause. He's the president. To minimize who he is, I think, is an insult to the achievement of having him there.
Given his loyalty and his change from confrontational to accommodating, the administration is rewarding him with access and assignments, like making him a spokesman for their education policy and sending him on the road with Newt Gingrich, of all people, to build support for hiring better teachers. Sharpton says 15, 20 years ago, he would have been looking for a fight with a guy like Gingrich. In those days, he was brawling all over the place, even on television.
I've learned to pick my fights and also to be more strategic about my fight plan. Doesn't mean it's not the same fight, but it means I'm a different and I'm a more seasoned fighter.
So if someone were to put a couple of adjectives in front of your name today, agitator should not be one of those names.
Say refined agitator.
Let your light shine.
Here's the refined agitator in a candlelight march in Arizona, expanding his portfolio with Latinos, standing up against the state's immigration law.
This is about a state law that is unconstitutional.
A lot of the positions that I take now, no one would have thought I would have taken. Who would have thought 20 years ago I'd be leading marches for immigration, or that I would support same-sex marriage, which most black church people don't. So I think that a lot of people are stuck in time. Thankfully, I'm not.
The new Al Sharpton has evolved, in some ways that surprised us. For instance, one of his favorite haunts is the Havana Room, a fancy private midtown cigar club whose other members are mostly white Wall Street bankers and the city's elite. You're a civil rights leader, representing all that that suggests, implies. And then there's this other side of you. You know, you live in fancy places.
First of all, I don't see that as a contradiction. This idea that we have to only be in one area, we fought for access. So why wouldn't we use access? Civil rights has nothing to do just with poor people. Civil rights, everybody has a problem. Racial profiling, one of the things that I became known for, came to me from people who had huge multi-million-dollar homes in New Jersey because blacks were being stopped in their Mercedes-Benz.
He smokes cigars here during the week, but on many weekends, he's preaching.
Some of y'all want friends that ain't never had a problem.
He doesn't have his own congregation, so like Martin Luther King Jr., he told us, he preaches at a different black church almost every Sunday.
I like folk that been knocked down and shamed and disgraced, and somehow God picked them up and cleaned them off and brought them back. Say it, preacher.
Reverend Al actually started preaching when he was just 4.
Who are you and who am I before God?
He was raised in a middle-class section of Brooklyn. When he was 10, his life was turned upside down when his father abandoned the family.
He had a child with my half-sister.
Whoa. He had a child with your half-sister.
Right, with my mother's child.
Yeah. When his father left, he and his mother were forced onto welfare.
We became a laughingstock. Every kid on the block used to point at us laughing. Their lights are out. His father's gone. They repossessed the Cadillac. It was a haunting experience. And it made me have a lifelong search for fathers.
And for attention, he said. He made his mark as a civil rights leader in New York in the 1980s by leading angry marches. They led to change, but this one nearly caused a race riot. People have said that you were a hate monger, a racial ambulance chaser, a shakedown artist, a race baiter. Did you go too far?
No.
You don't regret any of the things you said back then?
If you want to say that I use language sometime that I shouldn't, yes. If you want to say that I had more vanity than I should have, yes. But don't say that I was a hater and violent, because I was never that.
When Sharpton was in his 20s and 30s, there were allegations of mob ties, never proved, and charges he used his civil rights organization to shake down businesses for contributions, which he denies.
I think he has been a hustler all of his career.
Wayne Barrett, an investigative reporter with the Daily Beast, has written about Sharpton for more than 20 years.
I think he is in the civil rights business. I don't think he's a civil rights leader. I think he's in the business. He has an organization called the National Action Network. Nobody knows what happens to all that money.
An IRS audit would later show that he and his organization failed to pay $2.8 million in federal and state taxes. And then there was the issue he's most known for.
My name is Tawana Brawley. All right. I'm not a liar and I'm not crazy.
It was 1987. Tawana Brawley was a 15-year-old who claimed she was raped by 6 white men in law enforcement. And Al Sharpton took up her cause. But there was no forensic evidence of any sexual attack, and there was evidence Tawana made up the whole story. The case, labeled a hoax, was dismissed, and Sharpton was forced to pay $65,000 to those he had named. But in all this time, he has never voiced any regret. You have gone back and looked at things with such a clear eye. You've apologized, you've asked for forgiveness, except on Tawana Brawley. I don't get it.
I'll be honest with you. I have thought about that a million times. I just don't believe they treated that case fair.
If I knew that I had in any way contributed to falsely accusing someone, I think I would feel an obligation to say I'm sorry.
I think you're right. I think the operative word is if you knew that. I don't know that.
If they didn't do
But
it,
suppose they did.
taking the.
Suppose they did.
But they didn't. They didn't. You
But
still
I
think
can't
they might
say-
have done it, is what you're saying.
I still say that there is area there that makes me believe something happened.
He's not going to apologize because to him, this is playing to that core constituency, however small it is of his, that white America wants him to apologize, and he is not going to apologize. If you add a Brawley, federal tax liens, you put all of these things together, would anybody else be able to transcend that and be this larger than life figure?
He has.
Only because we let him.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. And
The new Al Sharpton has a nationally syndicated radio talk show. On the air 3 hours every weekday, he reaches a large, mainly black audience.
it gives me advantage over most civil rights leaders. I talk to people every day. I know where people are.
He still gets questions about how he makes his money. Well, he earns over $1 million a year at his radio show, plus paid speeches, and he's paid off the $2.8 million he owes in back taxes. But he says his big personal transformation moment came the day he picked up the phone and spoke to his father for the first time in 45 years. Why did you call him?
I had a chip on my shoulder, I guess. Why did he leave me behind? And, you know, I went through school and graduations all wasn't there, and I resented it. But I didn't realize how much I resented it until I reached out and realized that all of that I was carrying in me.
He told us that he used to think about getting in the newspapers. Now, older, more comfortable with himself, he's thinking about history.
And history's not made by guys that can just make the headline the next day. History's made by people that can help make change happen.
And stay in the game.
And change the game, not just stay in the game, change the game. I've been everything good and that my friends say, and mostly everything bad my enemies say. But right now, I think I'm on the right time to help make a difference.